So yeah, and then in terms of, we're putting this to use in the real world. Yeah.
Now, wow, that is impressive. Look at the Tesla Semi just blasting past a diesel truck going up a hill. Sorry, what's that? The regular semi is hauling 20.
To Summoner's Rift. Until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. Been slain. Executed. Dominating. destroyed. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Your champion's banned 22% of the time, right? Odds are every day you're gonna have to probably dodge one. So it's very likely that some days are gonna come where Bel'Veth gets banned all day. Now we're playing Nocturne. A couple things started showing up for you. Since you're so used to this gap close, your movement's wonky. Since usually your champion has to go in, I think if I were you and try to get to flat, I think I'd just play Nocturne secondary. Yeah, because I don't think you're gonna have a problem with Bel'Veth. Like right now, the way you're playing is fine. I think what's gonna hurt you more is just not having a solid backup pick. I would start red. Actually, would I start red? Yeah, let's just do chickens here. Actually, I like it since we're not getting a leash.
And she's starting blue.
I'm not gonna get too on you about clearing right now because clears are very subject to change at the moment.
Right. I know they're expanding.
Right. That's what I mean. That's why I'm not going to worry about it. I would be very curious. If Graves is pushing into this guy, I think I'd be a really camp guy too. Yeah, I would, because what's going to happen, he's going to play. You just saw him see the wave. Did you see that? So basically, what that means is he's about to shove up. And he's going to have behind him with the team. And that might have been his ward, actually, in River at the beginning. We don't know, but it might have been. So you can go all the way around, like touch the other wall. Oh, kill him. That's not a bad idea. Could work. Wait for Q, and... Oh! Wait, is she done yet? Damn. Shove, 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 shove. He's so low. Does he have Ignite, or does he have TP? Okay, shove, 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 shove. Q the whole thing. Get in the bush quickly, and then recall. She's not dead. Remember, Evelyn started she's going to bot side. Let's get a longsword. Nah, I would undo that and get a longsword. Oh, let's go.
ADC.
I would go all the way to my blue. I would check, yeah, she's gonna be on it often. Near it. Oh, okay. Yeah, she must have went right for it then. I mean, she did not look clear. And then she probably take like 4 camps, 5 camps, something like that. You're going to your romp next. You took a lot of XP from top.
Just go up to, don't want to just go up to
No, we can.
Start getting the XP and then I can maybe be top again if they build the program.
I don't hate it. I don't mind the route. So yeah, I would just... If we were doing this route, then we should go sweep. He has to go flat. So if you get behind him, it should be free. Walk foot, don't even hit him. Okay, he's awake. Alright, let's go clear his ward then. I would go into lane after this. I'll do the shadow for a second to see if just shadow for me. Get your camera on it, you can get ganked at any time. It would totally make sense. Because he showed low in the lane. I think that's fine. Remember, it's ravenous. You can buy boots and another longsword. That's what I would do. No. Boots and another longsword. Yeah, I knew that the gank might eventually show up there.
It just feels bad sitting there all day.
I know. Well, backing was fine, to be honest. It was fine. It's just we're there just in case. Right?
Right. Now, they
I would flank it. Sweep.
But I have sweeper. I'll wait till the last cone.
Oh. Yeah, walk it in. You have to W the Q. She has mana for it. Be early. I don't know if this works. Oh, okay. She doesn't have mana for it. The fuck? Now Q. Okay.
Did Caitlyn go?
She recalled. Alright, let's just clear. Bottom up. Need to get 6. So Varus is getting shit on right now. Get ready to count. Smite this, get ready to counter top. She's pushed, and she's like the thing that everyone's Can we counter? Can we counter mid? this is missed value right here. Because you're trying to force, but the problem is go build towards Ravenous. Build the pickaxe first. Undo that. Build the pickaxe. Better value. The problem is you're trying to gank somebody who, at this point now, has a ton of tools to get out, right? His flash is back up. His E's back up. His R is going to be up, right? Diving him, you have to literally one-hit him. Whereas the gank in mid, there's a Cassiopeia and a Evelyn, right? It's pretty hard for them to get away from you. That makes sense? So that station is going to hurt us so bad. We're going to flank this and try to kill it. That's cool. We're down and around. Okay, so Q has to be dodging, you have to sidestep the traps. Like, you have to dodge the traps manually, and then W to Q. Nice. That was a good try. Nice try. You played a little too patient instead of walking at it, right? You kept trying to wiggle your way in. You just walk at it, right? And then try to basically move out of the trap. What you did, you kind of was doing the right thing. You just sort of playing it. I would just go through and bottom up. I would imagine this guy was going to flash. I didn't see him flash, but it felt like a situation where he would have flashed. When you dove him early, yes. We're gonna go up there. Camera, she just ulted. Go chickens and then two. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Good that you're looking. Shame when you get this. Yeah, very unlucky that we haven't picked the kill. If you were a Nocturne by now, you want something, right? You might be a rift, actually. Go to mid. He has no ult. I'd flash on it. Yep, good choice. E it. I would. I'd go to Gollum. Her mid's gonna be back. Go to Gollum. What about top? Let's top with him. Okay. What the fuck is this lane, by the way?
Probably trying to counterpick the grade, bowling in the melees. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because people think counterpicking is stronger than playing their main.
So I would go up and around sweep. Evelyn could again be on Rift, so I would just peek it and then back. Okay, good enough. You can take a recall.
completely stop watching porn and stop playing around with it. The porn I was watching gradually as I watched it over the years upon years, it just kind of got darker and darker into whack stuff I never thought I'd be watching. And I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that are watching some porn that is something you never ever thought you'd be watching. 6th grade, the porn, I jumped into some weird categories, man. This is tough. Transgenders having sex with chicks. And why am I watching this stuff? Well, because I'm opening myself up to spirits and spirits the more I watch the porn, and I don't even realize it. You know, and as it gradually goes, it gets darker. And I was watching transgenders having sex with like transgenders and then dudes, and I'm like, why am I watching this stuff? Eventually, the porn's not going to be enough. Just like Ted Bundy, eventually the porn wasn't enough for Ted Bundy. And he started actually doing the acts, and I started doing the acts. Never ever thought I'd be doing something like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's my quick short testimony on porn and how it just dragged me to a dark place. But know this, there's good news at the end of this. Jesus found me, I found Jesus. I started to develop a relationship with Jesus. I realized that porn was in between me and God. And that I had to take a spear and shove it down the heart of porn and kill it in order to get to Jesus. Because if I left it there, God, I'm sorry, here I go. God, I'm sorry, it's still there, right? I have to kill it if I stop.
Amen. Powerful testimony, dude. It takes a lot of strength to bring sin to light.
Yes.
And it's just so powerful, and I just commend you so much. Serious.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate foreign language for me to admit stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
But this one, it's
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
you've done what you
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
So yeah, and then in terms of, we're putting this to use in the real world. Yeah.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Now, wow, that is impressive. Look at the Tesla semi just blasting past a diesel truck going up a hill. Sorry, what's that? The regular semi is hauling 20 tons of cargo, whilst the Tesla semi is only hauling about 5. Oh, don't worry, we'll come to the calculations in due time. Yeah, I realize people now who scoffed and said it was impossible for Elon Musk to build a truck that could carry an entire quarter of the cargo of a regular truck. And the truck that was going to be so reliable.
Reliability is incredibly important. We're putting massive attention into making this truck incredibly reliable.
What in the world? It's a Tesla truck, you guys. Look at that.
And that's why we are guaranteeing that this truck will not break down for 1,000,000 miles.
Yeah, there you go. It's the Tesla truck. The service battery coming up to it. Tesla service truck. Big Rick Wrecker.
It'll be a horrible week. It could break down in the middle of nowhere. The safety issues. We're guaranteeing it won't break down for 1,000,000 miles because it has 4 independent motors. You can lose 2 of those 4 motors and the truck will still keep going. In fact, even if you only have 2 of the 4 motors active, it'll still be a diesel truck.
Well, kinda, if it's being towed by one. No, seriously, it would know when it was about to break down and call services for you.
What's going on? Preventative maintenance. The truck will actually anticipate when it needs to be maintenance and inform you ahead of time.
Yes, it's official. The Tesla Semi can only carry about a quarter of what a regular truck can. And that's before we factor in all the other reasons why large electric trucks are a dumb idea. You know, they take too long to charge, they take too much power to charge, and a regular car battery, well, that's kind of a fire hazard.
Model S Plaid burst into flames earlier this week while the owner was driving it. According to the Lower Merion Fire Department in Pennsylvania, copious amounts of water were poured on the vehicle for over 2 hours in order to extinguish the fire.
That most fire departments can barely put out.
We actually had to lay a supply line, a street line, to feed our engines, and we had 2 extinguishers going, trying to extinguish this fire. And it doesn't go out right away, It definitely burns a lot hotter and a lot quicker.
Now imagine a battery pack 10 times bigger. And none of it prevented a gazillion Musk fans praising the everlasting crap out of the chocolate frying pan of invention. They're almost 4 years past the promised delivery date.
I can't believe it's been 5 years. So we unveiled the Tesla Semi 5 years ago.
Musk has unveiled a product that looks basically identical to the one that was unveiled 5 years ago. That is, it looks like a truck, but fails to deliver on every significant miraculous feature that it promised 5 years ago. Seriously, I went through the unveiling video again, and it's absolutely full, like 90% full of bullshit claims.
It's a pickup truck that can carry a pickup truck.
Then, of course, you get to the choke at the delivery event, and maybe 5% of those claims are delivered on, and they're all the unremarkable stuff. Or focusing on pointless crap, like how they've redesigned the cup holders.
To watch them put, I think they even took like a bunch of various cups and put them in CAD, and you'll see them put them in various cup holder sizes and places.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. He did it. He revolutionized trucking. Guess we can all go home now. Seriously, they're time to mention the design of the cup holders and how amazing all the wireless charging and USB ports on a truck was going to be.
We've got plug-in for wireless charging, everything they need on the electronic side as well.
Yep.
And, of course, the burning question that everyone is holding their breath for. Did Elon Musk manage to achieve the absolutely impossible?
You can put your coveralls on while in the cab, so if you have to go do a dirty job, you can do that comfortably as opposed to being out in the elements.
Making a truck cabin you could stand up in, to revolutionize the trucking industry.
Unheard of, we were able to do that with some pretty innovative packaging.
But curiously, didn't have enough time to cover some trivial details like how many they were actually delivering, how much they cost, and how much cargo they could haul. I mean, it was a delivery event, right? I mean, you would have at least expected them to mention how many trucks were delivered. But nope, not one. I'm going to guess one. Because it really does seem like Tesla aren't in any hurry to actually make a product of any sort. I mean, remember, in the original event, they promised everyone that they would get a working truck ready to go in 2 years.
And production begins 2019. So if you order now, get the truck in 2 years. I want to be clear, this is from day one. From day one, having a Tesla Semi will beat a diesel truck on economics. Day one. And this is a worst case scenario. So it gets better than this. This is the worst case scenario comparison.
And here we are, some 5 years later, and all you folks who put down $20,000 for a deposit for a truck that was going to be delivered in 2019. Nope, the small number that Tesla are making, they're cheaper.
And the other thing is that we're going to take these and we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to put these on into our own fleet, into our own supply chain.
Because I think that's how making products works. You promise to deliver something, take millions of dollars of pre-orders, make a few half a decade or so late, and then keep them for yourself.
And we're going to use this to transport goods between our factories and our suppliers because we believe in it, not just from a mission perspective and a cost perspective.
Yeah, screw those guys who put down pre-orders. Now, I think the real reason they're doing that, of course, is these things are so desperately unreliable that they just can't afford to give them to customers. You know, the truck's basically at the point where they can barely align the panels at the moment. That is 5 or so years late, and they're just about starting to learn how to make a truck.
Get that learning as fast as we can. We want it straight from the drivers, we want it straight from the service techs that are working on it. We're going to take all that data that's coming in and continue to refine the product and make it better.
Seriously, guys, you promised not just a working truck, a working revolutionary truck that would be delivered about 4 years ago.
Tesla using the trucks continuously day and night between here and Fremont and back again.
But coming back to the presentation, the core bit that they failed to mention, which is maybe the most important thing about a truck, is how much can it haul? Ballpark figures, the total weight of the truck and the cargo is typically about 40 or so tons. Half of that is roughly the actual weight of the vehicle, and about half of it is cargo. Not quite true for the Tesla Semi. We'll have this fully laden Tesla truck breezing up a hill.
So that truck's clocking in at 82. That's weighing 82,000 pounds. And when you see that pass shot again, you'll notice.
Yes, you're quite right. I will notice.
You'll notice that speedometer is climbing. You know, we're going 6% and accelerating up that grade.
It's like driving a normal car, not like driving a truck. It's just that you're moving 82,000 pounds.
So again and again, they're almost boasting about how the truck is the maximum allowable weight for a truck on the road, which is about 40 tons. But it's such an irrelevant number. The only number people care about is how much of that is cargo, which Musk is masterfully reluctant to give this critical number. Almost like it's embarrassingly small, just like everyone told him it would be. Well, if Musk's not going to give us the numbers, I guess we're just going to have to try and figure it out ourselves. Those look kind of like concrete barriers. So all we're going to do is look up how much they weigh and we can roughly calculate it from that. Yeah, these look about right. A couple of meters long, about half a meter tall. All we gotta do is figure out how much they weigh and count up how many are on the flatbed, and we can calculate how much the Tesla Semi is hauling. So what we got? A standard unit, half a meter tall, 2 meters long, and that weighs 500 kilos. So how many of them are we hauling? So there are 4 or so rows of this thing and 3 or so columns, so it's carrying 12 in total. I should stress I'm being a little generous here. There's actually only 2 in the last column. But whatever, we'll call it 12. At about half a ton apiece means that it's carrying about 5 tons of cargo.
So that truck's clocking it at 82. That's weighing 82,000 pounds.
Whereas your typical flatbed would haul about 20 tons. Now, I wonder why Elon Musk was so evasive about not mentioning the cargo capacity. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they weigh a lot more than I think. So I found this video about a truck laden with these concrete road barriers, which they reckon weigh almost twice as much. They weigh about a ton. But just check this out. It's not 3 rows of these, it's 4 rows. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 20 alone, not including the 4 on top. So there are 24 total road barriers on this truck. Twice as many as on the Tesla Semi.
It's just that you're moving 82,000 pounds.
Yeah, amazing how Elon Musk is so keen to tell people that his truck weighs about 40 tons, but can only carry somewhere between 5 to 10 tons of cargo. That's a half to a quarter of what a regular truck can haul. At which point, all of Musk's bragging about how powerful this truck is and how it can accelerate so quickly. Things that no haulage firm ever really ask about.
We want a vehicle that feels incredible, that accelerates like nothing else. Let's show what the truck...
But hey, guess what, Elon? You can put 2 engines on a regular truck, and that will probably go up a hill quicker as well. It's just that Musk's extensive research about what truckers really want focused on, making things badass and accelerate quickly and wireless charging and that sort of thing, rather than say how much freight it can actually carry. Yeah, looks like Musk is going to do with the trucking industry what he did for Twitter. So, if I've got 20 tons of freight to move from, say, San Francisco to LA, let's just assume Musk's truck can do it for the moment. I can either use one regular truck or a fleet of 2 to 4 Tesla semis with 2 to 4 times the workforce. Oh, I can feel Elon's promises of 5 years ago kicking in already.
I want to be clear, this is from day one. From day one, having a Tesla Semi will beat a diesel truck on economics. Day one. And this is a worst case scenario. So it gets better than this. This is the worst case scenario comparison.
And if you think this is the death blow, not even close. So at the delivery event, we only ever see one truck moving. Despite Musk telling people how easy they are to drive, he still manages to make the super autonomous truck lurch to a stop in a way that would make most truck drivers crazy. And spotting what's missing, let's go back to the original presentation, the full self-driving.
If you're in the truck and you have a medical emergency, the truck will stay in lane and gradually come to a halt and turn on the emergencies. If it doesn't hear a response from you, you'll actually call emergency services and get an ambulance. It's going to take care of you, it's going to take care of other cars, it's going to take care of pedestrians. This is a massive increase in safety.
And when the truck was actually delivered, there was no mention of any of these miraculous claims. That is, the Tesla Semi won't keep in lane, it won't fall off the road in the case of a medical emergency, and it won't call emergency services. Not only that, but the truck was going to come with autopilot as standard.
Every truck we sell will have enhanced autopilot as standard. Okay.
And there was no mention of the autopilot in the delivery event at all. Which, if we're being honest, just means there isn't any autopilot. Which might surprise some people, because back in 2017, they claimed they could already do it. Not just for one truck, but for convoys of trucks.
The convoy technology, the tracking technology, this is something that we are confident we can do today 10 times safer than a human driver. So I want to be clear, this is something we can do now. What this means is it's not just economic suicide to use one diesel truck, it's economic suicide for rail. This beats rail.
And it's all like this in the event back in 2017. It's just outrageous claim after outrageous claim. And when it comes to the delivery event, there's no sign of any of it. But hey, it looks like they did get the wireless charging to work. Seriously, what is it with all this scam stuff and their obsession with showing how their gimmick revolution is going to have wireless charging? And you know why it's dumb? Well, let's see how the actual driver uses his phone, shall we? Yeah, I'm sure he's really going to use the wireless charging. Right? Nope. He just has it plugged in on the dashboard. But seriously, it's no real surprise they didn't get any sort of auto drive on the truck, given that they can barely do it for a car. Yeah, with most people saying, well, full self-driving is kind of a nice gimmick, but once per journey, it will try to kill you. And if you're not there at the exact moment to jump on the steering wheel to stop it, it will kill you. And if you're wondering who's paying $15,000 for this, the most annoying fan base on the internet. Well, maybe even Tesla has their limits. Putting a device that can not really even drive a car in charge of a death machine, that might not be such a good look for the company. Elon Musk also seems to be genuinely proud that he didn't fake something in a presentation for once.
And we're going to post the whole video, unedited, on YouTube.
Yeah. And
no jump cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's referring to how they allegedly faked their original full self-driving video by jump cuts and that sort of thing, which accounts for why they apparently had level 5 full self-driving like 5 years ago, but today can't get beyond level 2? Sort of glorified cruise control, that sort of thing?
Yeah, there was like no fast moves here. Nope. So to be clear, it's not like, oh, what tricks did they pull? There are actually a whole bunch of tricks we could have pulled and didn't. You know, like as Dan said, like no special aero treatment.
Oh, and by the way, we should mention there was no charging. Like we charged the truck. Yeah, we didn't stop to charge. Single driver.
One charge. Exactly.
Yeah.
Good point. So
minor detail.
Yeah. So it's not like 500 miles like with no load, with special aero and special everything. It's like fully loaded.
Yeah, they go through all that, but never actually specify how much cargo it can take. Like, yeah, curious number to avoid giving out. Okay, let's take a look at that video, shall we? So he gets into the truck and he gets on the road.
The Tesla Semi will go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds.
And, yeah, okay, it's a truck driving.
So that's by itself or with a trailer. Now, at 80,000 pounds max gross vehicle weight, this is the real-time acceleration of a Tesla Semi. That, on the left, the thing that looks like it's not moving is a diesel truck.
Wow, with such amazing performance, I think they have an acronym for it.
Starting with performance. So we have an acronym we came up with that I think really describes the performance well.
You know, with performance like that, no other truck will overtake that Tesla Semi. Right?
Just gonna give it a moment. I'm sorry to bore you. I apologize. It's boring. I know.
But what you curiously find is the Tesla Semi appears to be the slowest truck on the road, even going up hills, being burned off by tankers. Seriously, it overtakes like once on its entire 500-mile journey. Meanwhile, it's overtaken by dozens of trucks.
You know, at Tesla, we don't make slow cars. We don't make this. So this thing has crazy power relative to a diesel truck.
And yet somehow, it's still miraculously almost the slowest truck on the road. Yeah, it's not such a good talking point that we've invented an electric truck that can only take half the cargo of a regular truck. So they fill up the rest of the time with vapid stuff like, yeah, the truck's better because, aesthetics?
You know, make it kick ass for the drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it looks sick. I mean, look at that thing. So if you're a truck driver and you want the most badass rig on the road, this is it. It's fun. It looks awesome.
Well, the slowest truck in the road is really amazing. It's completely different from driving any other truck. 'Cause reasons?
It's fast to accelerate. It's fast to brake. It's really a step change improvement in what it's like to drive a semi-truck.
Or you can just resort to the vapid Valley Girl speak of saying how awesome and totally rad things are.
It's pretty awesome. We want to make the truck an awesome driving experience, a game changer because of all the awesome innovations that have happened.
I mean, what I find actually really wild about this...
I mean, the team's done a lot of awesome work. I mean,
Yes.
we did all this work. It was really cool to watch them put, I mean, I think they even took like a bunch of like the various cups and put them in CAD, and you'll see them like...
Welcome to the Summoner's Rift.
So what are the important factors for trucking? Well, how much to carry and how frequently? A typical diesel truck has a range of up to 2,000 miles on a single tank, and will take you something like 20 minutes of fuel. Tesla Semi, even if you believe their numbers, and as has been said previously, you need to take these things with a grain of salt. The range is 500 miles.
So, you know, some people out there say it can't be done. I don't know who might say that, but I've heard rumors.
No one said that it wasn't possible. They said it would be stupid to do it.
And so we just did it. Yeah.
The range is 500 miles, but he says 2 kilowatt hours per mile.
2 kilowatt hours a mile.
Yep. So
that's 1,000 kilowatt hour battery. So a Tesla supercharger would take about 4 hours at their best supercharger, or 6 at most of their superchargers, or 15 hours at a regular supercharger, or if you're going to charge it home, about 150 hours. So about a week, compared to your regular Semi, which will take about 20 minutes to fuel and will give you about 2,000 miles of range. So of course, to overcome this, they claim they're going to have megawatt chargers that will get that charging time down to about an hour, until you realize that the average energy consumption of your typical house is about a kilowatt. So a single truck charger would basically require its own substation to charge a single truck. So coming back to what Musk was promising they could do now in 2017, you know, ignoring all the vaporware about how the truck was going to take you to hospital if you stubbed your toe or something, you would need 3 substations to charge just one truck convoy like this every 500 or so miles. Yeah, good luck in finding infrastructure like that in the middle of the desert. And of course, the delivery event showed no evidence whatsoever of these megawatt chargers. Just like in 2017, there was no evidence shown for any of their bullshit claims. And while it's maybe possible to do this sort of thing, it's also known that fast charging batteries shortens their life. So in reality, the delivery event was of a truck that would take hours to days to charge to go a few hundred miles. A regular truck would take 20 minutes to fill pretty much anywhere in the world and it could drive 2,000 miles. And this is before we go on to how much they weigh. Batteries are big and heavy, and they weigh exactly as much when they're charged as when they're discharged. And if all your truck is doing is hauling around a very big, very heavy battery, then it's not going to be shipping much cargo. So let's take Tesla's own numbers and assume that they're real. The 1,000 kilowatt hour battery is basically 10 Model X battery packs, which weigh about 1,400 pounds each, about 0.7 of a ton. So even with these optimistic numbers, they're looking at a battery weight of 7 tons. But they've got all the weight saving that they don't have to have a big, heavy diesel engine in there, right? Well, a diesel engine weighs 3,000 pounds, or about 1.5 tons. So immediately, off the bat, assuming with one you've got to carry a battery around and with the other an engine, with the fuel almost taking up nothing by comparison, the Tesla Semi loses 5 tons of carrying capacity because of the battery. And part of me suspects that it might actually be much worse. this, because otherwise, how do you explain the Tesla Semi fully loaded according to Elon and only hauling about half the cargo? Yeah, an admission of failure like that is something that you really wouldn't want to admit in a launch event. And of course, it goes without saying that there was no mention of the super advanced nuclear bomb-proof glass that was Musk's favorite feature of the Tesla Semi.
And this is the feature I like best: thermonuclear explosion-proof glass. See, look, nothing. Survived the nuclear explosion. That was incredible.
And they especially didn't want to prove how effective their glass was by trying to demo it.
Oh my fucking god. Well, and this is the feature I like best: thermonuclear explosion-proof. It didn't go through, so that's a plus side.
Let's try the right.
Try that one, really? Okay. Sure.
Oh man,
It didn't go through. So standard glass. Now why is this important? Because, see, look, nothing.
So the original Tesla event, you know, where the Tesla Semi was going to beat diesel trucks from day one, where everything would just work.
That's I think, really quite profound. We're confident that this is a product that is better in every way from a feature standpoint, that wins on economics against diesel trucks in a worst-case scenario, and that defeats rail in a convoy scenario.
Which they could do now.
So I want to be clear, this is something we can do now.
It was basically a rerun of their solar roof reveal, where it was a bunch of 100% fake products with a bunch of wild Theranos claims about how it would change everything, much to the adulation of credulous, scientifically illiterate idiots. In the Theranos hope that in a few years' time, they might be able to violate the laws of physics and deliver on some of these wild promises. Meanwhile, competitors looked at the actual problems and said, electric short-range delivery trucks kind of make sense, because they're the battery in touch of the issue, and started making and delivering them. Meanwhile, a techno Ponzi king, who's been ridden with flaws that people like me have been pointing out since day one.
But it's really not that hard.
It still sounds pretty complicated, Elon.
It's like a tube with an air hockey cable. I swear it's not that hard.
Yeah, the techno Ponzi scheme is fine until you actually have to unveil a product and compare what was promised to what was delivered. This was claimed it was going to change everything in long-distance trucking. Then what effect did the amazing reveal of the Tesla Semi have on the stock price, which has lost over 50% of its value this year? Well, it was basically nothing, which is about how many of the problems of long-distance trucking Elon Musk has solved here. And that's today's video. If you enjoyed it, maybe give it a thumbs up. Definitely consider subscribing if you've not done so already. And as ever, if you really enjoy the work of this channel and want to support it directly, you can do it through PayPal. Thanks for watching.
has destroyed
I tricked Sam Bankman-Fried into a third interview with me, and this time he may have admitted to fraud. You'll be the judge. You can click to this timestamp if you just want to listen to the interview, but I want to explain the background, the strategy that went into this call to try to learn where others had failed, including, by the way, learning from my own failures interviewing Sam. Now, first, I want to give some background. Sam at no point has wanted to talk to me. Every time I've kind of snuck on these Q&As and started peppering him with questions, he usually leaves. But I realized that since this was my third time basically doing the exact same trick, it was probably going to be one of my last, because at some point he was going to catch on. So I knew going into this, it might be my last chance to interview Sam. And because of that, I had to think long and hard about what the perfect line of questioning would be to really pin Sam down, knowing that he's a master at dodging questions. He's done it with everybody so far, including me, by the way. And I mean, look, I think we've got some great stuff, but to this point, I didn't think anyone had gotten that smoking gun. He always denies everything. He always has a sort of a loophole out of it. So I'd have to try a different tactic. And here was my plan. Sam's whole excuse about not being a con man all hinges around Alameda Research. Basically, he says he knew nothing of what was going on there because he was just the CEO of FTX. And while that's nearly impossible to believe that he's this stupid or incompetent, it's really hard to prove 100%. So I realized if we were going to do this, I'd have to remove Alameda from my case, right? I needed to show that Sam had knowingly defrauded people without invoking Alameda at any point. And here was my plan to do it. I was going to spend the entire time laser focused on the FTX terms of service. Now, some of you may know FTX lays out that they cannot use customer funds for anything. They can't trade with them. They can't loan them out. And I thought this was a really important point because obviously that money is no longer there. So clearly something must have happened. But I'm for any of you may know, laser focused on the FTX terms of service. Now, some of you may know FTX lays out that they cannot use customer funds for anything. They can't trade with them. They can't loan them out. And I thought this was a really important point because obviously that money is no longer there. So clearly something must have happened. But I'm far from the first person to notice this. Many people, including myself, have already tried to ask him about this and pin him down, but for various reasons, well, it didn't work. And I needed to learn why so we could avoid it. So I want to go through a few major interviews with Sam and show why this line of questioning has always fallen apart, starting with the New York Times.
The terms of service for FTX, and I just want to read you this. It says, none of the digital assets in your account are the property of or shall or may be loaned to FTX Trading. FTX Trading does not represent or treat digital assets in users' accounts as belonging to FTX Trading. So how is it possible that Alameda had this loan of such a large size?
So there's that piece from the terms of service, but there were a number of other parts of the terms of service and a number of other parts of the platform on top of that. There is the borrow lending facility, where users were lending billions of dollars of assets to each other, collateralized by assets on the exchange. You had obviously futures contracts where there are leveraged positions on. Now, of course, all of this, it's meant to be the case that these are positions where FTX could, if it needed to, margin call those positions and close them down in time such that it would cover all of those, all those shorts, all those liabilities. Obviously, that wasn't the case here, and that's a massive failure of oversight of risk management and of diffusion of responsibility from myself running FTX.
But just make this very straight. Was there commingling of funds? That's what it appears like. It appears like there's been a genuine commingling of the funds that are of FTX customers that were not supposed to be commingled with your separate firm.
I didn't knowingly commingle funds.
Okay, Sorkin tried and failed here to pin him down on the terms of service. Why? Well, because Sam escapes in this talk about a different part of the terms of service, which related to margin trading, where you take out some kind of a loan. And in a way, it was a complete deflection. Like, it doesn't matter that there's a separate margin trading terms of service because the people who weren't margin trading still should have had their funds kept safe. But it sort of threw Sorkin off track. And so now we're going to move to the Stephanopoulos interview, which was a bit better because Sam's going to try the margin trading story. But watch Stephanopoulos. He does a better job at honing in on the question.
But as you know, the FTX terms of service tell the people who signed up, none of the digital assets in your account are the property of or shall be or may be loaned to FTX Trading. But you're saying that happened.
My understanding is a few things happen. The first is there is a margin trading facility on FTX by which users can lend out funds, by which other users borrow funds. And so there are explicit cases where there is, margin extended, where there is borrow lending.
If Alameda is borrowing the money that belongs to FTX depositors, that's a bright red line, isn't it?
There are a lot of cases where that's actually explicitly part of the programs and that are happening.
But not here. Here it says that the digital assets may not be loaned to FTX Trading. They can't be loaned out.
There existed a borrow lending facility on FTX. And I think that's probably covered, I don't remember exactly where, but somewhere else in the terms of service.
But they'd have to approve of that. They're saying they didn't approve of it here. They're saying you approved of it.
Now, this is great stuff from Stephanopoulos. He refocused the question, but Sam's about to weasel out with a new trick. Go ahead and watch.
If you rewind to, the beginning of FTX, where, some customers were, I think in line with sort of existing relationships that they've had, at least in some cases, wiring money straight to Alameda Research in order to trade on FTX.
So you do know, and you did know, that FTX deposits were being funneled to Alameda.
So I was vaguely aware that that was how some wires were being sent in the first place.
Didn't that set off alarm bells in your head?
So there are a lot of people who are involved in that process. And look, I really deeply wish that I had taken a lot more responsibility for understanding what the details were of what was going on there.
This is how he slips out again. He tried the margin trading explanation. It didn't work. So he pivots to, okay, well, there's this weird backstory where FTX used to take wires from Alameda. And maybe that's where we lost the money, right? It's another smokescreen, but unfortunately, it kind of hamstrung the conversation. And if I was going to succeed, I'd have to beat that explanation. And in the first couple interviews I did with Sam, I tried to go with like this insider angle, where insiders I had talked to had told me something very different, but it didn't work. Go ahead and watch.
There's sort of all this talk about the terms of service. Did you break terms of service? Did you not? You're basically claiming that there was this separate side of your terms of service. But I talked to somebody from Alameda and asked how big the position of or how many people had assets in the type of accounts that terms of service would apply to versus the regular terms of service, which said you couldn't use their money. And they said it was about $1 billion that was in the margin trading or the margin side of things where you could reuse their funds or whatever. And there was the rest of it was not there. So it seems like you're putting all your eggs behind this one excuse about, there was this separate side of the terms of service. How do you address everyone else?
So I don't have all the data in front of me. My memory is that it was substantially more than $1 billion. I can't verify that. On top of that, there were other effects as well. Some of those were early wire transfers sent directly to Alameda.
Yeah, I kind of got stuck where Stephanopoulos roughly got stuck. I should have known that he was just going to refuse the evidence of insiders and just say, well, I disagree, and go back to his Alameda wire explanation. And I tried following it up a bit, but it didn't really matter. I had kind of missed my shot on that particular angle. And as I reflected on this, I realized all of the talk about margin trading, future trading, wire transfers to Alameda, all of it is a smokescreen from the big problem. The big problem is that some percentage of FTX's customer base never sent a wire to Alameda. They never signed up to margin trading. They never did spot margin. All they did was put their assets on the platform, and they were told that their assets would not be borrowed, it would not be loaned out, and that money would always be there. And it wasn't there. Why wasn't it there? There's no other way to explain that. If the money's not there, then fraud. And I had to laser in on that one point, not get distracted by these shiny objects that Sam's throwing up about this or that, or what about this, what about that? No, there's only one question that matters, and it's impossible for him to answer, I thought. So that was my strategy going into it. That was the backstory and how I learned from previous interviews. So without further ado, here's my third and probably final call with Sam Bankman-Fried.
I'm about to go up.
Okay, coffee, you're up.
Hey, Sam, it's me again. I just wanted to ask real quick about the terms of service question, which Rec brought up a little bit. I want to expound on it. Can you just tell us, yes or no, were you treating client assets just on the regular digital asset side different from the margin trading side?
I do think we're treating them differently. There were a bunch of different sides. There were more than two sides there, but I do think that we were cognizant of the fact that there were differences between uses for margin versus staking versus spot versus futures collateral versus other things.
Yeah, just people. I'm just talking about people just putting Bitcoin on the exchange. Yeah. Obviously, there was really clear terms of service around that. If it's true that you didn't invest client assets, not even in treasuries, as you said via a now deleted tweet, why do those client assets no longer exist?
So I'm trying to trace through some of this. Here's my best guess, and I wish I could give you a more confident answer, but I don't have the data. But my best guess is basically it's a combination of the following. One piece is the transfer sent directly to Alameda Research from customers. One piece, and that I think is a fairly substantial piece. One piece is...
Wait, can you explain what that piece means? So people were sending money to Alameda instead of, they were getting credited on FTX, and Alameda just ended up using those funds, and they were never held separately per the terms of service.
Well, there was a separate legal agreement with that. I don't know the details of it. I don't have it in front of me, but there's a separate legal agreement with respect to transfers that were sent directly to Alameda Research by users, especially before FTX had its own bank accounts. And so I do think that is part of what happened there, likely.
Let's focus on only client assets that happened after FTX got a bank. Y'all said digital assets are treated a very specific way. Why were those digital assets not treated that way?
So of the remaining piece, and there's a few other pieces as well, around features and other things. I understand that's not what you're talking about. For the ones that you are talking about, right? For the ones that were left, and I'm just taking a stab at this because I don't have the data, but my best guess is the following: is that there were a lot of those assets remaining. We processed something like $5 or $6 billion, I think, of withdrawals over the few days prior to, or I guess the few days during the crash, and there are still a few $1 billion of those remaining, I think, in the estate. And so you put those together, you have many billions of dollars of those assets. But I think, and so that's part of the answer, is that there were a large number of actual assets there. I think there's one follow-up question you probably still have there, which is, well, how about people who didn't withdraw and were also in that bucket? And part of the answer is, well, there still do exist some number of billions of dollars of assets, of hard assets in the estate.
No, is there one-to-one assets? Because that's the whole thing. We're talking about a separation of funds. So those funds should be in a different place, in a different wallet than everybody else. What you talked about, servicing billions of dollars of withdrawals, has nothing to do with those specific digital assets, because that's just first come, first serve, whoever pulled out first. We're talking about people who never agreed to have their funds loaned out, who never agreed to have their funds put on margin. They should have, according to your terms of service, one-to-one backing. It should all still be in some bucket somewhere. And are you confident today, as the CEO of FTX, this has nothing to do with Alameda, are you confident today to say that those are absolutely real and they exist and they're present, people are backed one-to-one on client digital assets?
So I think, and again, I'm just taking a stab here, but I think what happened is that if you look at especially a lot of the withdrawals that happened, those withdrawals were not necessarily only coming from people who never used margin trading or futures or staking or anything else. Those weren't just withdrawals from people who were keeping one-to-one back, or were sort of just keeping them as pure spot balances. And it was omnibus wallets between the various categories. And so I think that the answer to your question is that a number of those assets were withdrawn by people who had balances on the exchange, potentially in the few days prior to the collapse. And if you wanted to think about it this way, it could be that that happened, and then when the collapse sort of completed, that effectively meant that there was, if you wanted to put it this way, like fungibility created during those withdrawals between assets for people who had and had not been using.
But that means that there is no separation of funds. If there's fungibility between two different buckets of category, there are no buckets. It's just one bucket. Everyone's taking out of the bucket, which means substantially anyone who had your terms of service with digital assets wasn't actually subject to that terms of service. They were subject to the same terms of service of your margin trading, right? Which is your more risky product. So you subjected everyone to the higher risk product because fundamentally, when it came down to it, you're saying there's fungibility. It's $1 here, $1 there. Everyone can take out $1 as fast as they want. Don't you see that as like defrauding your customers, the people who trusted you to just say, hey, this is not going to go anywhere except for we're not investing your assets? If I can exchange one-to-one and I'm the one who put risky stuff on with risky assets with risky terms of service, I can take the money that someone who didn't sign up to those same risky terms didn't agree to. Isn't that fraud?
So I'm specifically talking about what happened in the days immediately during and following the crash, in that 3 or so day period, and during that period, I think we may have allowed, just generalized withdrawals. I think that was, if you're saying that we should have held up withdrawals for everyone who had an open futures position, for clawback potential or something like that, I don't know, maybe that would have been the right thing to do. I hear where you're coming from on that. I felt, at the time, that, we wanted to treat customers equally. It was an incredible...
But they had agreed to different things, so you can't treat them equally. I mean, it's like, this is the whole problem of the story of FTX and Alameda, is all the funds were being commingled. Isn't this just another story of commingling funds, except this is now FTX, which you can't pass the blame to Alameda anymore. This is your company, your funds, that you are treating all the clients the same when they clearly signed up to different terms of service.
So, I just want to respond to that. I completely respect your question, but you have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla. You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here. I completely understand where you're coming from. But to answer your question, I didn't make a decision there. I just processed withdrawals as we normally do until it became clear we couldn't anymore, at which point we shut them off. And it was the case that, at that point, there was a big liquidity pull. That's what happened. If you want to judge that process and think that, we should have been spending those days frantically trying to code up a new withdrawal process, I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fine. I mean, it's not about coding up a new withdrawal process. It's about treating your client assets the way you told them they'd be treated, right? It's a very different thing completely. But anyways, I'll stop grandstanding for Sam. Thanks, guys.
Oh my God. Woo! Oh my gosh. Wow. We got the call out. We got the shout out. All right. You can probably tell I was pretty excited about that because I finally got what I was looking for. A straight answer on the problem of funds, right? Sam explicitly says that FTX was not separating funds. They were allowing generalized withdrawals. The dollars were fungible from different buckets. You can't do that. We finally dodged all the BS about margin trading, about Alameda wires. We finally got to the heart of it, which is that there are no funds left over for the people who should have had their funds separated because they never separated them from the beginning. They were always seemingly commingled. And although Sam wouldn't necessarily agree that they were always commingled, the proof is in the pudding. FTX owes billions of dollars that they do not have. And it's because of how they allow withdrawals. To give you kind of a regular finance analogy about why this is so cataclysmically bad, and in my opinion, fraud. Imagine you banked at JP Morgan Chase, right? And you have your money in the savings account part. Well, then you find out that they actually had this risky hedge fund. And you know what? They actually kind of blew up. In fact, they blew up so badly that JP Morgan Chase is all shutting down. But when you go to the bank to withdraw your money, you find out that instead of keeping your money safely in your savings account, they had allowed the people in the hedge fund business to just withdraw, first come, first serve, right? They treated all clients the same, according to them. Well, you say, well, no, that's fraud because you signed up to very different terms of service than the guy who knew he was going to be in this hedge fund, right? He had a different level of risk. He acknowledged that level of risk. And if you just throw all the money in one pot, terms of service are meaningless, right? You're exposed to the same level of risk as the guy who took on huge risk. And that's fundamentally what happened at FTX. That's fraud. They told people their money was safe, and ultimately, they just subjected everyone to the same risk as the day trading degenerate gambler on 100x leverage. And I really found the last thing Sam told me so telling.
To answer your question, I didn't make a decision there. I just processed withdrawals as we normally do. That's what happened. If you want to judge that process and think that we should have been spending those days frantically trying to code up a new withdrawal process, I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
This is so interesting because, no, of course I don't think you should be coding up a new withdrawal process while you're going bankrupt. But if throwing all your client funds in a pool and letting the first come, first serve get the money, that's the wrong process to begin with.
Your process was fraudulent from the start. It should have never been your process. Your process should have been what you promised clients, which is, of course, what I told Sam. And although I think Sam's probably guilty of a lot more than we covered here, I really wanted to get to this minimum viable fraud case, and I think we did get it. I mean, there is no sort of wiggling around the fact that he was the CEO of FTX, and all of this stuff that was bad that we proved happened at FTX. You don't have to invoke Alameda to get to this, so you can't say he didn't know, because he definitely did know, and he says he knew. So the last thing I'm going to close on, and I thought it was the funniest part, was his little outburst at the end about me monopolizing his time.
So I just want to respond to that, and please, I completely respect your question, but you have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla. You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here.
And I thought it was notable for two reasons. One, he hasn't lost his cool once in any interview. This is the first time I've done it. And I thought that was interesting, but I also thought it was interesting because it's just not true, totally wrong. I've talked to Sam for, I think, 30 minutes across 3 interviews total, in total. For context, he gave the New York Times an hour. He gave George Stephanopoulos 2 hours. I think out of everyone he's talked to, or at least of the major interviews, I've talked to him the least. So if anything, I'm efficient with my time. That's all I'm going to say. And speaking of being efficient with my time, this video is over. Lock this man up, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.
хочет сказать, что память свойственна вообще всякому человеку. Память активна. Это не нечто пассивное, что тянет нас назад. Память отбирает лучше. На памяти основаны традиции. На памяти основываются трудовые навыки. Память — это начало творчества. Это почти процесс. Не накопление просто знаний в какой-то такой глухой. Память противостоит времени. Память противостоит времени. Память отбирает лучше. На памяти основаны традиции. На памяти основываются трудовые навыки. Память — это начало творчества. И это почти процесс. Это не накопление просто знаний.
Who didn't sign up to those same risky terms, didn't agree to, isn't that fraud?
So, I'm specifically talking about what happened in the...
Do you want to hop on Discord, my dude? Why do you think, you know, anything about finance? If I've said anything wrong, feel free to, like, call me out. But, I mean, like, if you just want to, if you just want to, like, throw esoteric finance terms at me, ask me if I know they are, incorrect on something, feel free to call me out. More cookies. Assuming you were talking about crypto, there's been gold, is it a less volatile? I don't know. I can't tell what you guys are talking about. It doesn't matter. Volatility is not relevant. This could be the most volatile substance in the world, but it doesn't matter. You put one in, you can get one out. If you're not risking your funds, it doesn't matter how volatile it is. It's not necessarily about how people evaluate investments. We talk about safe investments and don't know what IRS is. It's not an investment, fucking moron. These people were investing their funds. They were depositing. A deposit is an investment that is subject to loss. If I deposit $1 in a fucking bank, I should be able to withdraw $1 from the bank. It's not an investment. I'm depositing. It's a deposit. It's a holding. It's not an investment. It sounds like the people on FTX were depositing money that was separate from the investment on the platform. They didn't lose their money because they made a bad investment. They lost their money because FTX stole their deposit. This guy's a troll. Why am I getting trolled? Why am I getting trolled? Sorry. Let's finish with this.
Days immediately during following the crash. In that, you know,
this guy's trolling me. Hold on. I know he is. Okay.
Or say so day period. And during that period, I think we may have allowed you know, just generalized withdrawals. I think that was you know, if you're saying that we could have held up withdrawals for everyone who had an open futures position, you know, for clawback potential or something like that, I don't know, maybe that would have been the right thing to do. I hear where you're coming from on.
Would you say the same about U235? Put them in a bank for long enough, it won't be U235 anymore. That's what SPF is explaining in crypto terms.
Oh, what? That's gotta be a troll.
That's gotta be a troll. We're not depositing unstable radioactive isotopes into fucking bank accounts. That has to be a troll message.
It was in.
But they had agreed to different things, so you can't treat them equally. I mean, it's like, this is the whole problem of the story of FTX and Alameda.
What the fuck is this guy?
Is all the funds were being commingled. This is another story of commingling funds, except this is now FTX. You can't pass the blame to Alameda anymore.
Also, don't just talk about the commingling of funds that lost customer funds. That's only half the story. These commingled funds have been used for however long FTX has been running to make them more money. So not only are these commingled funds shitty because customers lost their money, these commingled funds are shitty because they were being used to enrich the owners of the site, right? They're making money off of gambling with this money too. It's the other half of the story.
Or this is your company, your funds that you are treating all the...
The reason they keep talking about volatility is because you use the word safe when talking about crypto, but they try to understand you weren't talking about whether it's safe investing, you're talking about the group of tech. Here's an example. Let's say there's a stock, okay? Let's say there's a stock, and let's say the price looks like this, okay? Let's say that's what it looks like. Let's say this is the stock, okay? If I buy one share of this stock, and it's being held somewhere, okay? I should be able to sell that one share of that stock. Regardless of where the price goes, I have one of that stock. Even if it's highly volatile, I should still have one of that stock. Doesn't matter how volatile it is, I still have one of that thing. If Bitcoin looks the same way, sure, Bitcoin might be highly volatile, I should still have that Bitcoin though when I go to withdraw it. Volatility doesn't matter here. It's not relevant.
Enemy killing spree.
Your point is extremely obvious you're wrong. Okay, I must be getting this. I think I'm getting close. It's still skip control. Is that really true though? I'm just kidding.
They clearly signed up to different terms of service.
So that may not actually be accurate. What I'm saying is that they use commingled accounts to allow traders on their platform to cash out. It doesn't necessarily mean the FTX was investing in deposits. It just means that they use customer deposits to exit customers from... No, you motherfucker, okay? If customers had to close positions and they had to secure those positions using customer deposits, that means they were not maintaining the correct amount of collateral in order to have enough equity in those accounts to satisfy the collateral requirements if they were closed. That means the only way that those accounts could remain open and profitable for the company is securing those accounts with collateral from deposits that never should have been at risk. If you ever have to use customer funds to secure a collateral requirement or close or short an account or position from another person's account that you're making money off of, you are making money off of customer funds that should never be at risk by risking them. I don't care. Never mind. I don't care. I don't care. You either get it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. You either get it or you don't. I don't care. Don't care. Don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I just want to finish listening to this and I'm going to go pick up Melina from the airport and we're good. Okay? Okay.
Respond to that, and please, I completely respect your question, but you have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla.
Ooh.
You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here. I completely understand. Wait, please, to answer your question, I didn't make a decision there. I just processed withdrawals as we normally do until it became very clear anymore. I was stuck on the clock, and it was the case that right at that point, there was a liquidity pool. That's what happened. If you want to judge that process,
how can there be a liquidity pool? And if there is a liquidity pool, why are you using customer deposit to satisfy that liquidity hold when those customer funds were never meant to be used for margin? This is fraud. What he's talking about right now. This is fraud. I have a liquidity issue, and I'm gonna satisfy it with customer holdings, with customer cash deposits. I'm gonna satisfy it. That's insane. That's fraud. Full stop. That's fraud. Full stop. The only way you're able to maintain those accounts is by satisfying the collateral requirements with accounts that never should have been at risk. And if you're using those accounts to satisfy collateral requirements, by definition, they are at risk. It's fraud.
Spending those days frantically trying to split up a new withdrawal process. I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fine. I mean, it's not about coding up a new withdrawal process. It's about treating your client assets the way you treat them. Right. It's a very different thing. Completely. But anyway, I'll stop grandstanding for Sam. Thanks, guys. Oh my gosh. Wow. We got the call out. We got the shout out. All right. I was pretty excited about this.
I finally got what I was looking for. A straight answer. Imagine you banked at JP Morgan Chase, right? And you have your money in the savings account farm. Well, then you find out that they actually had this risky hedge fund. And you know what? They actually kind of blew up. In fact, they blew up so badly that JP Morgan Chase, it's all shutting down. But when you go to the bank to withdraw your money, you find out that instead of keeping your money safely in your savings account, they had allowed the people in the hedge fund business to just withdraw, you know, first come, first serve, right? They treated all clients the same, according to them. Well, you think, well, no, that's fraud because you signed up to very different terms of service than the guy who knew he was going to be like, you know, in this hedge fund, right? He had a different level of risk. He acknowledged that level of risk. And if you just throw all the money in one pot, the terms of service are
You only have one pipe coming out of the chemical plant. You need 4. Wait, what pipe where? The water. Right there, the slow pipe that penetrates the ship from the chemical plants. What are chemical plants? I have heat exchangers, I've got condenser turbines. Are you talking about these pipes here? These metal pipes? You mean the nuclear reactor? Then you're offloading the ice into. Oh, this shouldn't matter. This is, I only use this over here to make sure that these water tanks can function. I'm trying to bump these spots in a different way, because I think I don't have enough water pressure here. I don't understand how I'm not getting enough steam in here.
Right? You're exposed to the same level of risk as the guy who took on huge risk. And that's fundamentally what happened to FTX. That's fraud. They told people their money was safe, and ultimately, they just subjected everyone to the same risk as like the day trading degenerate gambler on 100x level. And I really found the last thing Sam told me like so telling.
To answer your question, I was speaking there. I didn't process withdrawals as we normally do. That's what happened. You want to just that process. I think that like you typically spending those days frantically trying to put up a new withdrawal process. I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from.
This is so interesting. Because, no, of course I don't think you should be coding up a new withdrawal process while you're going bankrupt. But throwing all your client funds in a pool and letting the first come, first serve get the money.
This nuke setup requires 4 pumps of water to run. I have 4 different water lines running. What are you talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4 different tanks are running water lines. Do I need to put a pump on the tank here? Would that make a difference? You have one pipe splitting into four, so you have 4 pipes at 25% capacity. Calkeen, usually you know a lot about what you're talking about. Are you, but I can't tell if you're going crazy right now, my dude. Hold on. These pipes over here, these are, okay, hold on. These are condenser turbines. They should be returning most of my shit as water, okay? These little pipes over here are only to add incremental, really small amounts of water to the system when they get burned away and not recaptured by the water over here. That's it, okay? These aren't running constantly. They're just running. You had condenser. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, thank you for noticing. Okay.
That's the wrong process to begin with. Your process was fraudulent from the start. It should have never been your process. Your process should have been what you promised clients, which is, of course, what I told Sam. And although I think Sam's probably guilty of a lot more than we covered here, I really wanted to get to this minimum viable fraud case, and I think we did get it. I mean, there is no sort of wiggling around the fact that he was the CEO of FTX, and all of this stuff that was bad that we proved happened at FTX. You don't have to invoke Alameda to get to this, so you can't say he didn't know, because he definitely did know, and he says he knew. So the last thing I'm going to close on, and I thought it was the funniest part, was his little outburst at the end about me monopolizing his time.
So I just want to respond to that, and please, I completely respect your question.
LeMayo, Dusty just wants to silence because he fears. What? Get fucking rolled by the question if they have paid $10. Oh, you're asking a stupid trivia question. Never mind.
But you have monopolized all of these discussions, CoffeeZilla. You need to let others speak, and you need to respond to what I'm saying and not grandstand as much here.
And I thought it was notable for 2 reasons. One, he hasn't lost his cool once in any interview. This is the first time I heard him like really crack. And I thought that was interesting, but I also thought it was interesting because it's just not true. It's totally wrong. I've talked to Sam for, I think, 30 minutes across 3 interviews total, like in total. And for context, he gave the New York Times an hour. He gave George Stephanopoulos 2 hours. I think out of everyone he's talked to, or at least of the major interviews, I've talked to him the least. So if anything, I'm efficient with my time. That's all I'm going to say. And speaking of being efficient with my time, this video is over. Lock this man up, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.
Deyama, ha ha. Deyama. Lauren claimed the Canadian government will be euthanasia for mentally ill people. I don't care. I can't handle that right now. Cool. Cool. Do you think this is justifiable?
Олег!
Oh.
Олег! Олег! Я говорил, Олег, блядь! Не провоцируй! Че, сука ебаная? Олег, уйди! Уйди оттуда! Не провоцируй, я, блядь, говорил же тебе, блядь, а? Олег! Олег!
Was it acceptable? I mean, like, it's probably a little bit overkill, but I usually don't judge people for an instant response to some type of violent activity, because people will get like, yeah, I don't know, but taking a page from Destiny's Playbook. Let me dumb it down for you. FTX invests profits, not deposits. Nothing wrong with that. Customer funds are mixed with profit. Crypto speculation made, but there was no safe crypto investment. You just don't understand what you're talking about, but that's okay. I don't care. I don't care to talk to you. Think what you want. You can... Oh, fuck me. You can invest customer deposits without investing customer deposits. You can risk customer deposits without investing customer deposits, okay? Let me help you, okay? Let's say that I have $100,000 Okay, also, hold on. You keep saying you're informed by Reddit and GorillaZilla. The Reddit position on finance is that GME was a global scam and that those shit... Why the fuck you... Like, Reddit finance is super stunk. So I don't know why the fuck you're, like, roping me in with those fucking morons. They're more likely to agree with you than anything else, okay? So let's say you have $100,000 in customer deposits, okay?
30 seconds until
I hate that
minions
fucking
spawn.
annoying fucking noise. Let's say that on the other hand, let's say that you have, let's say that you have $100,000 in customer deposits with like, or, oh fuck, how would we even, this is gonna break my brain trying to do this thing. Let's say that you have $100,000 on your end of the site that you're using for some type of investment activity, okay? And this investment activity involves trading on margin, okay? Let's say that we use a $200,000 margin, okay? Meaning we get $200,000 of money to gamble with. So we're able to take our $100,000 and we invest $300,000, right? But let's say that in order to actually gamble with this much, in order to satisfy these collateral requirements, we have to use money from elsewhere to secure it in case we have to like close this position. If we use our funds over here to do that, then what we're doing is we're trading over here on leverage or on margin. Right? We're using leverage, we're trading on margin. We're not technically trading with that customer money. But the only reason we're empowered to make these trades over here on margin is because if these accounts get fucked, if they go too far up or too far down, we have to satisfy a collateral call or margin call, then we use the money over here to do it. That's the problem, right? You can't, even though you're not technically investing this money, you're using this money to secure these investments. And that sounds exactly like what happened. That is exactly what happened. What were the deposits for originally? I don't know, it sounds like customers could hold money on the exchanges. Give us a quick 900? Okay, dude, I'll do it. I will do it. Jesus. Another 876.
So Sam creates, $8 billion worth of token with SRM and FTT. Then he issues himself locked token, secret locked token, marks it up on his balance sheet by another $4 to $8 billion and calls it $16 billion worth of collateral. Okay. Then he goes shopping for a bank to give him a loan against this. Well, if I took $1 billion of Apple stock and I went to a legit bank, be more than Goldman Sachs. Let's say I got $1 billion of Apple. They would say, well, we will give you collateral value for up to the amount you have or 5% of the daily trading liquidity on a legitimate regulated exchange. So if you show me a security that trades $1 billion a day, and you have $1 billion of it, I might give you $50 million of collateral value, and that means you could borrow $25 million against it at 50% loan to value, but I'm going to margin call you if it moves a tick. So it means, practically speaking, $1 billion of that legit security is probably going to give you $10 million worth of a loan.
On $1 billion.
On $1 billion.
That's 1%.
Okay, right? Because the gating factor is what's 5% of the trading liquidity of that token or that asset? Because if I have to dump that thing in the market, I want to sell the entire position without moving the price. Okay, so that's the traditional world onshore. What Sam did was generated $14 to $16 billion worth of Solana, FTT, Ethereum. And then he went shopping for a bank to give him a loan. But he didn't want, you wouldn't get a loan from Goldman Sachs on it. No one's going to borrow you money, at least no non-crypto company. So what he did was he went to himself. He runs a bank called FTX. He applied for a loan from himself. He granted himself the loan.
For a loan from himself.
Well,
right?
secretly applied. He didn't tell anybody, but when they say, well, Alameda had a margin account and the margin position was slightly bigger than I thought, what he means is, oh yeah, they pledged a few $1 billion of air token, gave themselves a $10 billion loan, and they extracted. Even if you had pledged $15 billion worth of air token, giving yourself a $10 billion loan means that you gave yourself about 100x the collateral value you would have got on a regulated exchange onshore. So what he did was, in essence, extract $10 billion of real stuff. Dollars, Bitcoin, saleable assets, and he pledged $10 billion worth of air token stuff. And of course, it's a double diabolical thing. Here's the problem. So I create a token. I have 300 million tokens, and then I basically trade it with myself. Like, I give it to you, and you work for me, and you give it back to me. Then I lean on it, so I lever it up 10 to 1. In FTX, you could lever it 20 to 1. Then I borrow your money. You're a depositor, so I take your money. You have $10 million. I lever it up 20 to 1. I have $200 million. I buy my own token. I drive my token up by $5. $5 times 300 million makes me 1.5 billion in collateral. I post the collateral, and then I withdraw $1 billion of, 100,000 people's money. I put it in Alameda, and then Alameda gets a $3.5 billion loan to Sam, right? He gave $3.3 billion to either himself or his personal family holding company. So here's the diabolical twist. I didn't just generate $10 billion of an unregistered security to dump it on the unsuspecting retail. That would take me 500 trading days, dumping 20 million a day, right? He didn't do that. What he did is he generated $10 billion in unregistered security and then just borrowed $10 billion secretly from his depositors, and then went and gambled it, traded it, spent it, lost it. And,
how?
And that is it's particularly impressive.
So here's a question. He goes and he raises the $2 billion, okay? And he gets the $2 billion from not small people. He gets it from the best of the best of the best, right? You got BlackRock, you got Insight. You know the names. Yeah. I don't need to give you the names. You know the names. So
major names.
Then they don't get any seats, board seats in return. These are very, very smart people who are seeing this. Are they just as responsible for the fall of FTX as Sam Bankman-Fried is?
Bitcoin maximalists would say that the problem in crypto is arrogance and foolishness. Okay? Anybody that's investing in it is either greedy, arrogant, or foolish. So
True.
There's 3 constituencies that got taken for billions. The VC investors put $2 billion into an offshore exchange. The exchange, just to be clear, was unethical and illegal from the very beginning. It's illegal to do what they did in the U.S., and it's unethical if you think I am front-running my customers, issuing a token, manipulating the price of the token, dumping it on them.
If you did that in stocks, you're going to jail. It's not.
It's absolutely
yeah.
Right. FTX was its own regulator, its own market maker, its own exchange, the issuer. right? All at the same time. This is such a and the hedge fund, too much conflict of interest. So, but the three constituencies are the VC that put the $2 billion into FTX. They were supporting basically an offshore, unregulated casino, running in an opaque fashion, counter the interest of its own customers. They didn't ask for a board seat. They didn't do due diligence. They were chasing what they thought was insane gains, right? FTX is showing a company that goes from 50 million in revenue to 500 million in revenue to $1 billion in revenue, and they thought they just had the next great thing. So, Sam lies that any con, right, is like, I think I'm getting a deal that's too good to be true, and the con man is lying to me, we're all lying to each other. And the first $2 billion goes down.
How mad do you think Athene is? He's been getting one of these really good crypto scams.
There's another $4 billion or something like that in just loans made by, crypto industry. I think Alameda borrowed hundreds of millions and billions of dollars from Genesis, from Three Arrows, from Voyager, from Celsius, from, BlockFi, etc. So it's like if you start with this fiction that FTT is a real thing. If I create, again, like yo-yo token, and I manipulate the price up to $10 billion by trading 2% of the float, if you think it's a real thing and I act like it's a real thing, then I pledge it as collateral and you give me real stuff for an air thing. And so there's like $4 billion of that, and they lost that was part of the reason that Voyager and BlockFi going bankrupt. And the reason that Sam wanted to bail them out is he didn't want to actually have the loans called, right? He was actually trying to buy BlockFi and buy Voyager with FTX equity, which of course is fraudulent and worth nothing. But if I borrowed $1 billion from a company and they want the money back, and I can simply give them $1 billion of equity, take over the company, and not pay the loan back, I can roll the entire fraud forward. So that's the second. The third is, this is also diabolical. FTX said, we're built by traders for traders, and Sam bragged that they only charge like 3 basis points trading fee, and he was 30 times cheaper than Coinbase or much cheaper than Binance. So he's stealing customers off of the other crypto exchanges by, in essence, offering near free trading. He's not trying to make money off the trading. He's trying to actually get the assets on his platform. Because once he had the assets on...
Oh, shit. That's super true. Because once he has the assets on his platform, he can use that as secured collateral to fund his other investments or his other business ventures, right?
His platform, he basically used FTX like his own personal piggy bank. It's like there's $10 billion there. Everybody else is going to get wiped out.
So, of course, he's offering favorable terms just because it's a fucking scam. And that is true. Yeah, you're stealing from other exchanges.
If their margin positions trade down 20% for a minute, except Alameda. Alameda has God mode. They never get margin called. So in an exchange, like in the U.S., it's illegal to go more than 50% loan to value. That means you're kind of like, you start with $1 million, you borrow $500,000, you get 1.5x leverage. Okay, well, FTX started with 100x leverage, and then they backed it down to the responsible 20x leverage, which means that you post $1 million and you can take a $20 million
position. Okay. Who allows that?
Now here's the insane. What if I put $1 billion of air token, FTT, on the exchange? I recognize you and I let you take a $10 billion bet. Whatever, you took a $10 billion bet, now you withdraw $4 billion of real cash and you use that to buy property and buy everything under the sun. So Sam basically, he scraped billions from unsuspecting investors in Silicon Valley. They should have known better. He took billions from crypto hedge funds and crypto banks like BlockFi and Voyager. They should have known better. And then he took probably 10 billion or more from depositors on his exchange. They have the best argument. It's like they were staring at terms and conditions that said he's not going to rehypothecate or use their assets. Yeah. He just, he lured them with the promise of cheap trading, high leverage, And, if you thought, well, Sam is manipulating the price of FTT and Serum and Solana, and he was, right? That's illegal and unethical, right? It's a pump and dump scheme. We talked about this before. But if you accept the idea...
Unless you can prove that the investments made using deposits to back were safe, then you have no argument. You're not supposed to be investing those funds, my dude. I know that you're the other guy doing the code. I can't tell if you're a master controller network. It's really stupid. You just can't do that. You're not supposed to use those funds to invest, my dude.
The crypto tokens that are issued by some offshore, dude are okay. Then you're thinking, well, I guess I want to go buy some of that and get behind Sam and Alameda because they're going to drive the price up. But I think Solana went from $3 to go to 50. It went way up, and FTT went to $50 a token or something. So you could have made a lot of money trading those tokens, but you probably would have wanted to go to the FTX exchange because, guess what? Newsflash. It's illegal in the U.S.
More to your Future Looks Bright hat. Click over here to watch the entire...
We finally have all of our Matscape brought up here. Tomorrow I think we need to build out some platforms. We need to build out... So this whole thing should just be for resource offloading. Then we need to build a platform to remake the 3 sciences here. Then we build a big platform for the green shit, the purple shit, the orange shit, and the blue shit.
And the enemy is unstoppable.
We're all gonna make it. Oh no. Oh God, no. I need to withdraw my funds. Keep rock. Rocks are safe.
myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the dump, the only thing that's real. Red candle digs a hole, the old familiar sting. Try to cope it all the way, but I remember everything. What have I become? My sweetest friend. Every coin I own just gets bogged in the end. And you could hack it all. My portfolio of dust, it'll only let you down. It'll only make you just.
Rip. All right, I'm gonna grab Elena from the airport. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be less sick. We'll see. Okay, I don't even know what this is. Okay. Rip.
Howdy.
Yo, 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 how's it going, Mr. V-Man?
Pretty okay, except my internet seems to be a little bit on the fritz today, so hopefully we don't have any issues with that.
That's okay, man. Russian saboteurs are everywhere. Look behind every corner, man. There's a red everywhere these days.
Unironically true. Red Scare too, except this time it's good. How you doing?
Red Scare 2 Electric Boogaloo. I'm doing okay. I'm back from Ukraine. I'm back in the great state, the best state in the whole United States, Maryland, okay? I'm back in Maryland. It's fantastic to, you know, visit with family and see friends and relax a bit. Be able to use services like DoorDash, and the ease of it is just very nice. But it's weird readjusting. It's difficult, and all I can think about is going back. So I'm trying to head back in January or February.
Jesus Christ, man. Well, I won't deter you. You know, I'm impressed by your bravery. Just make sure to get some R&R before you head back into an active war zone. Okay.
Look, I'm doing my best to relax, but the thing is, right? Rest and relaxation is important. Definitely when you're dealing with, you know, situations like we were dealing with over there. Extremely important. But the thing is it's not like all just doom and gloom over there. Like, you have buddies that you hang out with. You have, like, you drink with people, you eat with people. I used to go to this place around Kiev. I remember, you know, I'd go to the front line anytime I needed to come back and just relax for like a week after like some weird stuff that happened. You know, just want to relax. I go to this compound that's hosted by a friend of mine, and it's like 100% renewable. They got solar panels and windmills designed by the family. 100% renewable, and I could just sit there and watch pirated movies and get smoked up with legal substances, of course, and you could get smoked up and just relax for like a week or two before heading back out. And it was fantastic because it allowed me to kind of avoid a lot of the war fatigue that a lot of other people deal with.
Yeah, oh man, you're feeling it, aren't you? This is the thing. It's like, it's dangerous over there, but people are alive, as opposed to the banality of day-to-day life in the just before fascist uprising United States. I mean, to an extent, right? Like, there's more purpose over there. There has to be.
There's a reason why I'm doing this, right? It isn't because I'm just like an adrenaline junkie or something, right? Even though there is a possibility that plays a small role, right? It's impossible to tell exactly what, but a lot of it is that there is purpose over there, and like there is something to it, like the event, like there's always like an event happening, something to do. There's always work around. Like, even if I just go to like the diner, there's a chance that like the sirens will just start blaring, and I'll make a note of it. And at the time, it's extremely annoying, but now it's strange that it's not there. Not saying that I want it, but there's something about the familiarity of hearing those things so often that's like strangely, like, I don't want to say alluring, but it's like something that like kind of, it's different. The banality of it is weird. It's weird that I can just like order a bunch of food on my phone, no matter where I'm at, basically in the United States, and it'll just be delivered to my home in 30 seconds, perfectly cooked. That's weird to me.
Yeah, I don't want to romanticize living in a conflict zone, but I can't imagine that the stark contrast between the convenience of living here and the austerity of living there definitely helps you like better understand your priorities and what actually matters to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now I really feel a lot of passion for my work that I'm doing now, which is a problem because I didn't feel a lot of passion for my work for online for a little bit. Like, I started feeling like I was getting disconnected from the real world, posting these constant internet debates about like what's the best linguistic way to call somebody a retard without using the word retard because retard is ableist, right? Like this, like these conversations are interesting and everything, but like this isn't like real world shit, dog. Like, you don't feel this shit in the real world. Or you go outside, this isn't tangible. The type of work I'm doing over there is so much more tangible, has like an actual effect on people's lives. And seeing like all the aid that goes over there because of some of the people I interview, I'm like super hyped about that. But it is very banal, and I do kind of just want to go back as soon as possible.
Yeah, I fully get that. I think yeah, I can't imagine what that would do to my psyche, like the switch between those two environments. Either way, you know, it goes without saying that everyone over here is incredibly impressed with what you've been doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How do you feel? Okay, so yeah, how do you feel about what's going on over there, you know, situation-wise? You know, I talked recently to Richard Hannay, a person who I'm sure you know, on the ongoing state of like the, you know, military movements and how things are going there. But as somebody who's been there personally, like, how do you feel things are going?
People are in generally high hopes. Like, there is general confidence in Ukraine's ability to continue the struggle and like continue to win. The thing is, like, while I was over there, Ukraine had a ton of victories. I went to the Kharkiv Oblast right after the successful Kharkiv counteroffensive. I was actually there when we started to hear basically less artillery and everything else was just taking missiles because they were no longer in range. And talking to people there, especially those who were there to push back the Kupiansk counteroffensive. I remember I was there, and I actually interviewed a soldier. Like I can't really get too deep into who he was. I'm not allowed to share who he was or what role he served. We have to censor him from everything if we like include his stuff. But he was like, yeah, like everybody in Kharkiv is fighting. Like when I was there, we didn't see a lot of soldiers on the street because all of them was on the front line because the counteroffensive was so successful that they were just like, fuck, we actually don't have enough soldiers to take advantage of the holes that we're making. And that was like a really big W over there, and I really felt the spirit around that. But I also was over there to like film like schools that were like blown up and like playgrounds that were targeted and stuff like that. So like even if there's like this feeling of like, wow, we got this, and like, oh my gosh, we're pushing them back, we're doing the impossible, we're defeating the so-called second most powerful army on the planet. Like every bit of the way, Russia's making it as painful as possible. And you can even see it from the strategy now. The strategy right now for the winter is to freeze the Ukrainians to death. That is the strategy. They admit it openly. And I'm telling people not to go listen to the Russian language outlets that translate to English by Russian media and then they send them over. I'm saying go look at the Russian state media that they send to the domestic audience. Not the stuff that they send for you to consume on Russia Today, English-speaking stuff that they put in the mouth of whoever their spokesperson is going to be. Go listen to their own media. They talk openly about freezing the Ukrainians to death, making them pay for their hubris. If we displace another 10 to 15 million, then the Ukrainian problem will solve itself. And the Ukrainian problem will become a Polish problem. Like this, and this is openly said on Russian state media. And this is why the New Lines Report published a report. The New Lines Institute published a report saying that this language, combined with many of their actions of almost like cultural annihilation in Ukraine, could make the argument for a potential genocide occurring. So I would say that even though Ukraine is winning success after success, like those successes are drenched in the blood of innocent people, and Ukrainian soldiers who died have to achieve it because Russia is going down swinging and like fighting as hard as possible. The Kherson counteroffensive was a great example of this. During the Kherson withdrawal, and I was actually there for the start of the Kherson counteroffensive, I released a video recently called "I Got Shelled by the Russian Army." I hope people go check it out. It's got like 8,000-9,000 views. If it got more attention, that'd be fantastic. And in it, we were in Mykolaiv. We were there to film at a local hospital, and talk to hospital staff about a hospital that got blown up by the Russians. It was the only, it was a really advanced, more modern medical, like trauma ward, which is where people would go if they got shot. And that's the exact place Russia blew up and then continued to kill civilians that would need to go to that trauma ward. You can kind of see the purpose of targeting the trauma ward then. If you're going to target a specific thing that is designed to deal with the injuries that you're creating in Mykolaiv. But after we talked to them, while on the top of the hospital, we see anti-air missiles probably, I don't know, like about half a mile away from us. Like they make a cloud behind it and they start like hitting Ukrainian positions, and anti-air fire starts like firing up. And it really took me aback because I didn't expect it to be that close. I was like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And I leave there. I head to a bar to like get some food, like a steak and some food. And while we're there, we find out that we're in the city of Mykolaiv during the launch of the Kherson counteroffensive. And the thing is, it was rumored for a while. I don't know if you remember this, Bosch, but they talked about it forever. Like, the Kherson counteroffensive is coming, it's coming, it's coming. And some people started to think like, well, is it ever coming? They've been saying this for so long. And so I didn't really believe it when all my contacts were texting me like, Dylan, you're in Mykolaiv. You are like well within range of artillery, well within range of everything. You're almost on the front line.
Skedaddle.
Like, be careful. Like you need to make an aid delivery over there. I understand. We're making an aid delivery to like a dog shelter in the area. That takes care of injured dogs and dogs that have been abandoned by their family members and stuff. But actually got shelled before we got there. They missed it by like 300, 400 feet. Shrapnel hit the side of it. But we were like, well, that's actually, I filmed up 2 dog shelters, both of which have been shelled. One in Kramatorsk and one in Mykolaiv. The other one in Kramatorsk, what they shelled at, the shell actually hit the dog center. And it destroyed many of the dog houses. And it was pure luck that none of the dogs got killed.
Jesus Christ.
I haven't released a
no
video
doubt
on the
deliberate
dog yet.
strategy on the part of the evil Ruskies. to target the dogs and Ukrainian morale.
Exactly. But I wanted to finish.
I want to say really quickly, by the way, that obviously I'm very glad that you skedaddled or at the very least.
Well, no, we didn't skedaddle. We did the exact opposite.
Or at
we
the very
delivered
least
the
weren't
aid
hit.
anyway.
Yeah. And genuinely insane that you stayed there knowing full well there was a risk of that actually going forward.
Well, I mean, like, the thing is, right, we did get shelled. Like, we got shelled in the city center, right? The shell fell about 150 feet away from me. If it was any closer, it would have killed me. Piece of shrapnel, like, very, very close. The thing is, though, like, other people did die. Who died? We got lucky. And the strikes were completely random in the city center. They were peppering the entire city center while they were there. We would hear Russian jets like whoosh coming overhead the whole time, sirens blaring, the whole thing. But the first 3 shells didn't even have sirens because like they didn't know it was coming until it hit. And so like a lot of it is like of course safety precautions and knowing where to be and what to do in those situations. But those first 3 shells were just pure luck, right? Complete luck. And the people who did die, they were civilians who just got unlucky, right? Yeah. And so like, you know, there's only so much prep you could do. But what I was telling the story for, and then I'll come back to that like question about like risking and like, you know, risking the life. But the reason I'm telling the story is during the next 2 nights, when I was near the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, when I was filming over there, on that as well. That piece is called Living Near Ukraine, Chernobyl, and we filmed in the night we slept near that city. We heard so much artillery bombardment. I heard 50 explosions in 30 seconds, and that's when I knew like the Kherson counteroffensive was going to be like super serious, because like they were laying down heavy rocket fire, and it ended up being extremely serious. And they retook the only provincial capital of the entire war in Kherson. And what they uncovered there was, I don't know if you've heard this story, but they were actually orphanages to hide children away from the orphanages in the homes of the people who run these orphanages, because the Russians were trying to steal the orphans and deport them back to Russia.
Yeah, there was a whole...
to stop them from getting to like de-Ukrainize them or whatever.
That was what Brianna Joy said in one of the 78 recent times that she's been doing about the shit on social media, where she was like, what did she do? Did she deny that was like ethnic cleansing, or did she say it was good? I forget what exactly she said.
Okay, so at the time, somebody brought it up to her in a debate. As like, see, isn't this something we should work to stop? And she's like, no, because why isn't America doing helping out everywhere? It was the essence of her argument. Then afterwards, she put like question marks over it, like the disputed claim that Russia's doing this, when like we know that they're doing this.
Yeah, this is why. And you said you weren't fulfilled hosting Twitch debate panels over how to say retard elegantly. And I feel like this is one of the things that's really making debate difficult for me as well lately. Is that in the past couple of years, all the subjects I want to debate on are ones that there is no debate. Like, you'll talk with Russia sims, and it'll be like, oh, Russia's not doing that, and then you'll take a look at official Russian state media saying, yes, we are doing it. Like you said about freezing them out. I've seen Russian sims go like, no, Russia is not trying to. And then you go on Russian state media, and they're like, yeah, fuck those Ukrainians. Yeah, we're fucking them up. Who cares?
They're like reposting images of them executing their prisoners, fucking sledgehammers. And then I don't know if you heard this. Then one of the fucking people that did that execution, the organization Wagner, one of the representatives, sent a sledgehammer with their logo on it to EU members, to EU representatives.
Yeah, no, and then you know, no doubt all those people then went on social media and said, no, we didn't do that. It's really frustrating in what feels like a, I don't know, like a post-debate online discourse environment where it's kind of progressed to people like lying about the thing that they're doing at that moment visibly in front of you, and it doesn't. It's like there's no point, you know. I mean, you cover it as best as you can, and God, certainly you have. But I mean,
it's weird because like I'll go there. Oh, sorry, continue. I didn't want to cut off Rush.
I can understand why, you know, this would provide you a lot more satisfaction than the actual.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm very happy about the type of work I'm doing, and I do enjoy it, even though of course it's weird. It's weird to say that out loud, that I enjoy my work when my work is like, now it's becoming covering a war, but like I get fulfillment from it. I don't need to enjoy every aspect of it to like find some things in it that are joyful. To be able to share these stories, I do find a lot of personal fulfillment in.
Doctors can enjoy their work. I mean, you could like, oh, you enjoy your work? The only reason a doctor has work is because people are sick and dying. Like, nobody says that, because everyone understands that what the doctor means is, I enjoy being able to be on the good side of this bad thing. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. But you were asking about like risking like the lives and like risking your life and stuff like that. I guess for me, like something that I've done, and this has really helped me, is the first thing I've done is accepted the fact that if I die, I most likely won't know that I died, right? Because let's say these things about these, like, the time when I'm most present and most thinking about my death was not actually when I was directly being shelled by the Russian army. It was when I got into like the vans afterward to like get away from the shelling. And the reason why is, I don't know if you watch all these like videos online, but the majority of videos where you see people dying from this war, it's people blowing up in cars and other vehicles and tanks and vans and transport. And the reason why is like these vans that were like transporting around in, I had the experience on the Zaporozhye front line, and I had this experience on in Mykolaiv. They're basically just moving cars. They have no protection. They've got no steel plating. If they get hit, you're dead. Like you just, and he's not even gonna know you're dead. And if you do survive, you're gonna be so disfigured, then you're fucked. So I'm just, just hope to be dead. But the thing is about being in these cars versus being outside of them is when you're outside of them, you have better control of like your vision and your hearing, and like you can personally move and have an impact. And so you're very much thinking of like, what can I do right now to keep myself safe or to do something to help others? If you watch the footage of me being shelled, you see me like debating, like, we need to get closer over there to like get filming. We need to go where they just hit. And then saying immediately, fuck, but they might double tap and then we'll get struck. But when you're in these vans and you're in these cars moving around, there's not much you can do to like improve your odds. So you're left there with your thoughts. And so you start thinking about like, I'm in a fucking moving coffin, right? And so something that I've done in those situations, which that was a big thing in Zaporozhye because it was the first time I was near the front line. And I was surrounded by soldiers. I had full gear on. I didn't have full gear on Mykolaiv. And what I do is I think of the statistical probability. Like, well, odds are that the most likely not going to hit me because there's been a million people who've been through this direct street, and only so many have died. So the odds are I'll probably live. That has helped me some. Of course, thinking if I do die, probably won't even know, helped me some. And the last thing, and this is like the bigger thing is, this is the most like soy Reddit thing I'm ever gonna do. You watch Cowboy Bebop, yeah?
Actually, no.
God, you what?
Nah, it's been on my list for a while. I tried watching it twice and I dropped it both times. I don't know why. I like it. I tried watching it twice. Nah, it's on the list. I probably know what you're gonna be referring to.
There's a scene near the end of it where Spike, the main. I can't believe you haven't watched. I don't know.
I know who Spike is. I saw that much. I saw at least 2 minutes into the first episode.
So there's a scene near the end where Spike is talking to the girl, Faye, or whatever her name is, and when he's talking to her, he's about to go into some thing that's really what are you gonna do? Just throw away your life? And he says something along the lines in like the spirit of it, and this really connected with me. And it's weird to say like I'm gonna make that, but it was along the lines of like, if I do not live this way, then am I truly living? If I don't live personally in a way that I think is the like complete like is the end result or like the natural end goal or the natural end point of like what I think my political activism is, even if it endangers my life, then like am I truly living my values? Am I truly living who I am if I'm not willing to do that? And if I would rather be living my life not only in a way I personally enjoy and find the most fulfillment in, but is most, I think, in line with what I believe ideologically, and I'm very, very, very supportive of Ukrainian democracy. So I almost feel like it's like I have to, in a way, to live my life the way I have to live it. To like, to not only to live it most truly free in fear and living free of letting fear control me. I let fear impact me, but I don't let it control me, and to allow me to like have the most impact politically that I need to have. And so for me, I feel like risking my life is part of living my life. If you don't put all the chips on the table, then like you haven't really gambled, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that philosophy works great for you. I'm gonna stay on the computer actually, if it's all the same. I'm glad it works for you though. It'd be pretty difficult to get any kind of live coverage of on the ground, military action if it weren't for people with a daring attitude towards covering that sort of thing. Seriously though, it is if there's any like real message taken, it's that deep within the heart of every man, and non-man, I guess too, if you really want to be particular, is the possibility of de-soyifying yourself, right? You can go from being the Twitch streamer to the live war coverage reporter. You can be that guy.
But I'm still arguing with Chaos's mouth, and nothing's really changed.
But that's it, right? Like it's yin, it's yin and yang, right? You're like the envoy to the rest. You're the inspiration. I mean, it genuinely is. It is pretty crazy, though, right? I mean, you have to. I'm sure you get an earful of this from your friends and family, people who know you better than I do, how insane what you're doing actually is. So you don't need education here, but it's still just absolutely wild. You know, we talked to Anna recently, whose full name I'm not going to attempt here, so as to avoid embarrassing. Anastasia, thank you. To avoid embarrassing myself. And obviously she's doing some incredibly brave work herself, but there is kind of like this justifying mechanism, right? Where it's like, okay, well, she lives there. You don't live there. No, which, you know, it definitely gives people more if ever you think that. You want to go back?
It's weird. Yeah, I do. Oh, I'm going back in. If I don't go back in, I don't know why I want to. I almost feel like I have to. It's very strange. I feel like I gotta be involved until we win the war. I feel like I have to. Then I'll go back to college. Then I'll continue doing politics, maybe, or maybe I'll just move on to another war. Because this is also I'm like each video I release on this is getting very better. Like the first one was just raw footage because I was like, I had this philosophy originally going into this, just complete gonzo, no commentary. If you put commentary over it, you're biasing. You just need to show them the complete like unfiltered view. But I'm slowly like getting like, oh no, you can like add commentary and you can like guide people along.
Just every racial epithet directed against Russian people, just overlaid on top of the war footage. You know, pure propaganda.
Absolutely.
Crank that shit out. No pretense towards an unbiased coverage.
The Biden Banderite coalition is expanding, but
absolutely.
But yeah, like I'm more happy with the work I'm putting out. Like I got shelled by the Russian army is much closer to what I want to be putting out in the future. So like I think I don't know what I'm really gonna do after this, but I gotta stay with this till the end of the war. And I think part of the thing you brought up, like she didn't like choose this at all. I did choose this. Which also means that like I talk a little bit, like I try to talk less about like my personal struggles with the war, or like my mental health issues with the war, which of course like I have those as well, because like I chose to be there, right? Like I could leave at any time. These people can't leave, and so that's why I always try to emphasize when we talk about that, this is like I chose to be there. A lot of people didn't. And so I think for them, like I chose this, they didn't, and that's a choice I got to make that they didn't. And I think that is something that you do need to emphasize when we're talking about war journalism versus like the people who live there. Like for me, this is their village that exploded. It's their village that exploded, not mine.
Yeah, I don't think it's disrespectful to emphasize that, though. You know, I mean, everyone watching you can know that you could leave if you wanted to. The question isn't whether or not you're as trapped as any of the villagers. I mean, I guess there's like that implicit, oh, are you suggesting that is bad? But I think it's, speaking as someone who has no intentions of going anywhere near the that side of things.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
I mean,
so is there any?
Oh no, just there aren't that many specials, right? Not delivered towards an English-speaking audience. Obviously, plenty of Ukrainians speak English, but if somebody wants to get like info on what's going on in Ukraine as an English speaker, people are normally limited to like a collection of psychotic, like national security, like fan accounts, and some journalists who are reporting from afar. In terms of people on the ground, there cannot be that many active English speakers presenting their content in English in Ukraine. At least I haven't seen that many.
I guess, like, well, for me, I think the first thing that needs to be established is that the English-speaking world is extremely important to Ukraine. Because the UK, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, these are all countries that support Ukraine, and America, especially as well, their support is extremely important to Ukraine. So I think it's really important to inform English speakers, because if English speakers aren't informed, then they might be less willing to continue to support Ukraine, with Americans still overwhelmingly supports the English in Ukraine, because most Americans, I would like to think, when they're not being lied to about weapons of mass destruction, are generally moral individuals, I would like to say. I know that's a wild thing to say, but I think overall Americans are generally loud minorities that dominate us. So I think it's important to do this journalism, but the thing is, I think I've met a lot of people, but I mean, they weren't everywhere, and there's a million stories to tell. And the thing is, and this is the way I always tell people, for every war crime you see, right?
Yeah,
If you think about the scale of the Holocaust, there will be so many war crimes that occurred during the Holocaust and the Second World War. They'll never be documented. Either A, because all the witnesses were killed, B, all the evidence destroyed, or C, the person who had testimony died before they could say it.
Not to mention with the Holocaust, a lot of what we got was a deliberate effort from FDR and a bunch of others to go over and document everything. They didn't just incidentally get it while pushing back the German front line. They basically moved over and investigated the battalion alongside the capital to get everything like that. And they still so yeah, no, just what we have now, which is just at the ebb and flow of the front line that we can push back and forth, is a minuscule fraction of the right.
Absolutely. I mean, from my personal conversations with people, the stories I'm told by people who are like at Bucha about like, yeah, there was a friend of mine. I remember we were at Bucha, and I recorded the video is publicly available. I think it's titled "Exploring the Ruins of Bucha." I talked to this old Ukrainian Bucha religious woman who walked out of the church when we went to visit the mass grave in Bucha and filmed there, and she tells us about, and the thing is, we can't go certify this stuff. We can't go because a lot of this is like the evidence isn't there. Or there's so many people that need to be investigated for war crimes, and so many things to investigate. You just can't investigate it all. That's why I think it's important for freelance journalism and war journalism, and for people to like go out and report this stuff. But like she tells the stories about people like being shot in the back of the head, speaking Ukrainian in the presence of Russian soldiers. Or people who are choir boys who are tortured in the basements of buildings, trying to get information out of them about Ukrainian troop positions, or hey, you're really a child spy, you know? The type of stuff you're told that I don't have the evidence for, but the testimony I hear, and it's like some of that might be not true, but a lot of it is true. We just don't have the evidence for it, and now all we have is the testimony. That's why when I go back, I'm gonna try, and I did a few this time, or the first time, you know, I'm getting my hands on this stuff. I'm trying to get used to it. I'm gonna try to do a lot more sit-down interviews with people, and I'm gonna be releasing those as they try to talk about the testimony of what they experienced. Because a lot of that stuff, like, there's never gonna be any physical evidence for it, and all that exists is the testimony.
It also sells the best to a Western audience. You know, sell like in terms of presentation and interest. War footage has a pretty good audience on account of it being pretty, you know, by default. Whereas, you know, the human element tends to make people feel a lot more connected. I remember there was that video from that video. It was like a larger channel. They went in there and they got Channel 5. Channel 5, that's right. Channel 5. Yeah. It, you know,
he did it early on in Lviv. Yeah.
Yeah. Notably, very far from the front lines, unlike you, brave boy.
Thank you.
Yeah, the either
if I can get Channel 5 viewership for doing stuff 10 times more expensive and 10 times more dangerous.
Yeah, you just.
But I don't got the Andrew Callahan charm, buddy.
You
I don't
need
got
an incredibly fucked up looking guy with an afro, following you around, and that friend of his, the one who wears the ski mask. You need a crew running around.
I need a crew like a
shit.
I do. I have some weird Polish friends of mine. There's some weird Poles I can bring around. And who doesn't like the Polish?
Nobody. Nobody's ever disliked it.
Absolutely.
You certainly deserve Channel 5 numbers.
Oh, I appreciate it. One day. So, is there any other questions you want to talk about, or should I just like, do you want to like stories or any questions that you have else? Like, I have.
No, well, well, the problem is like asking questions makes me feel like we're fucking like your relatives back from abroad.
You can ask me. Hey. The better the questions, the better the thumbnail, buddy.
Yeah, fuck. Well, I'm bad at that. I don't normally.
You're gonna ask me like, do you fuck anyone in a war? Are you gonna do fucking? I don't care.
I'm not gonna ask you any personal questions. No, I mean, I guess. Okay, well, here's one. Closest you've gotten to your knowledge to Russian food. Have you ever gotten within eyesight in any of them, or heard any of them, or like you knew they were within a mile or two? Like how close?
They've 1 mile. When I was in the first video I released on the ground is unironically, like, if you know what's going on in that video, there are like a million red fucking flags in that video where like we're just standing within like 5 to 10 feet of an unexploded Russian musician, just filming it like a foot, like 5 ways, like 5 feet from it. Like you hear shelling in the background constantly. We get followed by a Russian drone and we run into the forest to run away from it. Artillery starts to crawl in our direction. We get in the van, run away. The van breaks down as the drone is like circling overhead. There's like a million red flags in it. But we did end up, after all of that day, actually getting 1 mile from the Russians on the front. And they showed us all the positions. They showed us the dugouts. They showed us where the Russian position is. We could see the Russian tree line. We could see where the Russians like were. Like if they point that way, we know they're at that tree line. We didn't see individual bodies, but we saw where they were, and we knew they knew where we were, and we knew that they had tried to like maybe kill us with the drone earlier that day.
Yeah.
And they did shell the position when we were going to it. So we got lucky that day.
1 mile is definitely within earshot. Jesus. When you get back there, or you know what city? I assume that like you don't want to travel too much between different areas, because the time spent on the road traveling is time you're not like actually digging into something at it. Because the more time you spend like traveling between cities, I imagine that it comes in time you spend sort of war footage. I know Ukraine's a pretty big country, right? Like you could lose a day traveling between cities.
Oh yeah, well the thing is for me is I need to stream while also covering the video to pay my bills, right? So the dynamic I have is insane. Where like I'll go, like we'll like do a day, and if I get back to the city in time, I'll start up a stream and be like, hey everybody, I just got back, I got shelled a few times. Anyway, and then do the day, right? Like that is something I'm doing that is probably not like the most effective ever, but I also need to pay my bills at the end of the day, and I am a streamer, so I make some money. If anybody would help me pay my bills to make that a lot easier, but yeah, it's just really weird because it's streaming and being a streamer and very strange. Definitely when you have to get closer to violence. You basically just have to like skip a week streaming to do a lot of this stuff, which is difficult when you're trying to pay the bills.
Yeah, especially if you're streaming on Twitch because they have such Do you have?
I can't stream a lot of the war stuff. Like I feel like I can stream a lot more of it. I have a second channel called Dylan Burns Live, DYLANBURNSLIVE, where I do 2 daily uploads, and that's also where I probably stream if I streamed on YouTube. And of course the main channel, which I'm trying to make my more like artsy, like here's all my Ukraine content and war footage channel. That second channel is where I'd probably stream. It's also where I can get my live stream content. But like, I don't really stream on YouTube much because